Mahjong can be a very difficult game to learn, but we've all gotta start somewhere, right? So let's go through the very basics and learn a simple playstyle so you can enjoy a game or two. Okay, before we start, there are a couple of things I have to say. First, I'm assuming you know nothing about Mahjong and that your goal with this is to either play a Mahjong video game or a video game with Mahjong elements like Yakuza for example. If you intend on playing it in real life, the information in this video won't be enough for you. Second, there are differences between original Chinese Mahjong and Japanese Mahjong. Given that we're going for the video games, we're gonna focus on the Japanese variation. And third, I will omit most of the Japanese terminology and rules that don't apply to the playstyle we're going for. This is not out of disrespect for the game, but for the sake of keeping the explanation simple. Whenever I say something like, it's not important or it doesn't matter, it just means that it's not relevant to this playstyle we're going to discuss. If you already know the basics or would like a more in-depth explanation, there are a couple of really good videos on YouTube. But given the amount of stuff that there is to be explained and all the different strategies, it comes as no surprise that those videos tend to be 2 or 3 hours long. So, with all that out of the way, let's begin. These are the tiles used in Japanese Mahjong. They can be divided in 2 groups, the numbered tiles and the honor tiles. One important thing to remember is that there are 4 of every tile you can see there. Let's look at each group. The numbered tiles are quite simple. Similar to playing cards, they go from 1 through 9. The dots are probably the easiest ones to remember. You simply count the number of dots. That's all there is to them. The bamboos are also quite simple. You just count the number of bamboo sticks on the tile. The exception being that the number 1 bamboo, instead of being a tile with a single stick on it, it's usually represented with a bird. Or something that looks like a bird. Even the color might be different from the other ones, but if it's got a bird on it, then you can be sure it's the number 1 bamboo tile. And then we have the characters. The first 3 are simple enough, but for the other 6 there's no helping it. You've gotta memorize the kanji. In some cases, the 5 tile might have a slightly different kanji on it, but you can still recognize it as the number 5. Just keep a list nearby and you'll memorize them in no time, it's not really that hard. As for the honor tiles, we have the wind and dragon tiles. The wind tiles have the kanji for north, south, east and west in them, but don't worry, there's no need to memorize which one is which. All you've got to remember is that they're always the same color. So the tiles with the black kanjis on them are the winds. Sometimes they could be blue instead of black, but still, the 4 winds will always be those tiles with the kanjis of the same color in them. Same thing with the dragons. Instead of focusing on the kanjis, just focus on the colors instead. You have the green, red, and white dragons. There's no mistaking it. So just give it some time, and after a handful of games you will eventually become familiar with them all. It's not really that hard. Alright, so that's it for the tiles. Now, how do you play the game? What's the goal? Well, when playing in real life, there are a bunch of things you've gotta learn, like where each player will sit, who will be the dealer, and how to build your tile wall. But since we're playing in a video game, all of that is done automatically, so we can skip that part. Each player gets 13 tiles, and then you organize them however you feel like. When playing a video game, the game will automatically organize them by type and order. When you draw a new tile, the game will place it with the other ones you already have and in the proper sequence. On each turn there are 2 things the players can do: draw a new tile, discard one and move on, or claim victory. And how do you win? Well, all you need to do is form what is considered to be a winning hand. Now, The issue is, there are several ways you can form those hands depending on all sorts of different factors, but we are gonna focus on learning how to build only one type of winning hand, which happens to be the easiest one to achieve. A winning hand is composed of 4 groups of 3 tiles and a pair. Those groups of 3 tiles can be either sequences, so this only applies to the number tiles, or trios, which applies to all tiles in the game. Remember when I said that there are 4 of each tile in the game? Exactly. So it's up to you to judge as you draw new tiles if you go for sequences or trios. As for the honor tiles, the winds and dragons, in this style we're going for, you can think of them all as individuals. They don't really interact with each other, so it doesn't matter which wind you have or which dragon you have. All you can do with them is either focus on trying to form a trio or ditch them. That's all we're gonna do with them for now. The sequences can be anything you want, as long as you keep the same suit for that sequence. You can even repeat sequences if you want to, it doesn't really matter. For example, you can have a 2, 3 and 4, and then a 3, 4 and 5. It counts as 2 sequences, even though the game will probably keep the repeated tiles together for the sake of organization. After you've got the 4 groups of 3 tiles, you need a pair. And a pair is just that, 2 of the same tile of any of the tiles in the game. So, as you draw new tiles and discard them, it's up to you to judge which combinations you're going for. It's also important to keep an eye out for the tiles the opponents have discarded. Let's say you have 2 red dragons and you're waiting for the 3rd one, but you can see that someone has already discarded 2 of them. Well, since there are only 4 of each tile in the game, you can already tell there's no chance you're gonna complete that trio. Speaking about the opponent's tiles, one of the aspects of Mahjong is being able to claim the tiles your opponents have discarded. Now, this is where things get interesting, right? Wrong. We won't be doing any of that, and here's why. In order to call a tile from someone else, that tile has to complete the trio you have in your hand, and the way to prove it is to claim the tile, place it with the other 2 you already have, and lay them down so everyone can see. But, by doing so, it means that your hand is now considered open. If you don't claim a tile from anyone, you don't have to show any of your tiles. Therefore, you have what is considered to be a closed hand. So, claim tiles and your hand is open. Don't claim tiles and your hand is closed. Remember when I said that there are several types of winning hands depending on different conditions? Well, whether your hand is open or closed changes a lot of what types of winning hands you can form. So for any starting players, having a closed hand is the way to go. If your hand is closed, then all you need are the 4 groups of 3 of any kind and a pair, and you have a winning hand. It's that simple. If your hand is open, there's a bunch of other criteria you need to satisfy in order to have a winning hand. Like for example, having a hand composed of only trios, or using only honor tiles, and so on. Professional Mahjong players know all of the possible winning hands, so more strategy can be applied to judge when it's worth opening your hand or not. We're going for the amateur strategy here, so just keep your hands closed. Even though we're not gonna call any of the opponent's tiles, it's important you know how those moves are called. Because depending on the game you're playing, when someone discards a tile you could claim, the game will try to tell you, to which we have to know how to say no. There are 3 ways of calling tiles. The good news is that they will always be written in katakana, so it's easy to learn. Chi. Chi is when you call a tile in order to complete a sequence. Pon. Pon is when you call a tile in order to complete a trio. And then there is something called kan. Remember that there are 4 of each tile in the game? Well, it's not very common, but there's a chance you might come across all 4 of the same tile in the same game. Kan is when you call a tile in order to change your trio into a quad. But there's one small difference when making quads. Let's say you have a trio, and someone discards the 4th tile. You can call Kan and form a quad with that tile. But remember when I said that calling someone else's tile makes your hand open? That also applies here. But what if you have the 3 tiles and you draw the 4th one yourself? Well, then you can also call Kan, and that will review your tiles, but since they were all yours to begin with, you didn't take them from anyone, your hand will still be considered closed, so it's an okay move to go for. Alright, so you've been playing, drawing and discarding, and you just drew the last tile you needed. What now? How do you win? Well, you win by calling Tsumo and then revealing your hand. On some games, usually the newer ones, the game will let you know when you're ready to call Tsumo. On older games you have to do it yourself. You usually have a button to open all of the possible calls you can make in the game. That includes calling opponent's tiles and calling up Tsumo, which is why it's important to learn which one is which. There's also one other way to claim victory, which is called Ron. Ron is when you complete your hand with a tile someone else has discarded. Let's say you have your hand formed and you're waiting on a single tile to claim victory. On that situation, pay attention not only to the tiles you draw, but also to the tiles the other players discard. If someone discards the last tile you need, you can call Ron and win that match. This is the other exception when calling a tile won't open your hand, as long as it's the winning tile. But then again, as always, there are some conditions you need to fulfill in order to call Ron, so you can try calling it, and if it doesn't work, well, you probably didn't match those conditions, so just keep playing. But it's always worth keeping an eye out and try to call it if you see someone has discarded that tile you needed. If it doesn't work, well, in real life there are punishments for making a false victory call, but in video games it will just block the command or something. Very often the game will end with no winners, so in a draw. When that happens, the players will show their tiles and check who was in Tenpai and who was in no Ten. Tenpai is when you are one tile away from the victory. No Ten, which is short for no Tenpai, is, well, when you're not in Tenpai. Even though it doesn't count as a victory, when it ends in a draw, whoever is in Tenpai gets some points from the players who are not in Tenpai. Talking about points, real-life Mahjong works kinda like Monopoly. In real life, every player is dealt a bunch of sticks that have different values to them. Those count as your score. You see, different hands have different values to them, like for example, having your whole hand composed only of tiles from one suit is worth a lot. But we're not getting into that, because it fits on the whole open and closed hand discussions. There are too many variables to discuss. For now, let's just focus on getting our 4 groups of 3 and the pair. If you win a match and you realize you scored a lot, or not so much, it will probably be because you fulfilled some of those many variables that form the scoring system. Something exclusive to Japanese Mahjong and therefore to be found on most video games is something called Riichi. It's somewhat of a common term there. I think it's used not only in Mahjong but also in Pachinko and other places I've seen before. In Mahjong, when you are one tile away from the victory, or as we saw before, you are in Tenpai, you can declare Riichi. That means you're betting 1000 points on your victory, which is why the 1000 point stick will show up when you do so. Your score will be higher if you win, but at the same time, when you declare Riichi, that means you cannot change your hand anymore. Whatever tile or tiles you were waiting to complete your hand are gonna have to be the ones you win with. If you see an opportunity for a better hand later on, well, you can't change it anymore. Now, what are your odds of winning when playing with this style? In the end, it's all down to luck. Of course, knowing all the possible hand combinations will give you a better chance of winning and a better score too, but using this style is not so bad. Depending on the game you're playing, the score is not as important as just winning is. Some games use the score as some kind of health value. You get a game over when it reaches 0 or negative. Oh, and if you're having really bad luck with your hands, then here's a bonus strategy for you. It's kinda hard to make it work, but won't hurt to try. Still, keep your hand closed, and instead of going for the 4 groups of 3 and the pair, aim for 7 pairs instead. It's kinda hard, but well, you'll never know. If after a couple of games you find yourself really interested in Mahjong, by any means look up more advanced rules. Take it easy, learn little by little. There's no need to learn it all at once. Mahjong can be really interesting, and if you start looking, you'll see that there are loads of Mahjong video games out there for almost every platform. It's a whole new genre to explore. So take your time, give it a shot, and most importantly, have fun.